All right, Steve Urchin. I see they're calling you Steve Wilson. Is it Steve Urchin or Wilson?
It's both. So it's Steve Wilson is my real legal name. And it was funny because when I did the book, I was like, I wasn't sure if I was actually going to tell people, that my real name was Wilson. But then I was like, well, I guess I should. It's a book. It's my first book. I should. And it was my book is a lot to do with my father. And my father is Wilson, obviously. So that's that's really why I decided to use it. But within the music industry, the entertainment industry, I'm known as Steve Urchin, and that's because my first company that I ever had was Mystic Urchin, and that was a company that I started with Fahrenheit way back in 1994, and we signed a bunch of artists and we managed artists and we started a record label, and I mean it was pretty serious, as you see.
Wow.
So that name kind of stuck with me. People either called me Mystic Steve or Steve Urchin, and it just stuck.
Cool story. How did you start in the record business?
How did I start in the record business? I could say that from I was 7, I knew I wanted to be in music business, Then I tried a couple of instruments and found out that was not my calling. And then I always figured I was going to find a way to be in music. When I was at UWI, I went to UWI, and back when I went to UWI, they didn't have music management programs that they have now, and UTech has now, and Edna Manley has now, which is great. But back then they didn't have it, so I did Masscom. And on the day before my last exam, I heard that Reggae Sunsplash was looking for people to come and work. So I went for an interview, and they asked me when I could start. And I said, well, I have my last exam tomorrow. So, and they were like, okay, what time your exam finish? I said 4 o'clock, and they're like, okay, be here at 4:30. So I was like, you don't want to see my degree, you don't want, and they were like, no, just come. If you can do the job, you can do the job. If you can't do it, it'll be obvious very quickly. So that was my first job, and I went from there to Tough Gang, to Island Records Jamaica when Chris Blackwell had his label here, and I worked with Sharon Burke for many years. I worked at Mirage doing nightclub promotion. I worked at G Jam Studios down in Portland, managing studio sessions. I did kind of like to say a circuit train in the music business. I kind of did a little bit of everything, and it was really cool because I got to sort of tool myself so that I understood lots of different areas of the business, and at the same time I kind of also got to see what I liked and what I didn't really like that much, so I could kind of figure out where I wanted to position myself. And so when an opportunity came to join Sean Paul's team, which came through Jeremy Hardy, my high school friend, he was like, I need a road manager for Sean. And I was like, man, the two things I love is traveling and music. So that was a job for me. And that was kind of how I got involved with Sean.
Wow, that's a strong pivot. We're not going to get to Sean yet. Tell me about Chris Blackwell. What was that relationship like working with him?
So, all right. So I was working before Chris. I was working with Solid, and I was working with Tough Gang, and Ronnie Burke was somebody who I met from Synergy, Reggae Sunsplash, and he's always been an icon of mine. He's somebody that I like to kind of model my life after. Which what I loved about him was that he had a passion for what he was doing. It wasn't about the money. He didn't want to get into music business for money. He got into for the passion and the love of music. So me and Ronnie always had a good link, and he said, "Boy, I hear that Chris Blackwell is opening a Island Jamaica office, and they're gonna start trying to run a label out to Jamaica again. And I know the people, so I can put you up, for a job interview." And I was like, man, that's my dream. I mean, Chris Blackwell signed Bob Marley and U2 and Steve Winwood and all these amazing acts. So to me, it was like a dream. That would be a dream, And I said, boy, if I don't get the job, it'll be a good experience for me to go and interview, So he put me up for it. I went and I got the job, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I worked mostly with Trish Farrell, who was the head of the label here. At that time, we signed Beanie Man, we signed Luciano, we signed Spanner Banner, with a lot of really cool things. But I didn't interact with Chris that much, to be honest. He was always sort of in and out, and he had hotels in Miami and business in London, and he was always in and out. So usually when I saw him, it was perfunctory, sort of in the hallway or at an event or something. But I definitely got to intimately understand how he does things and how he does business, and I loved that he had kind of gone around Jamaica and cherry picked these really beautiful properties to run like these boutique hotels out of. And I got to do events at most of those hotels when I was working with him. So that was also really cool.
Yeah, I've met him a few times. The last time we sat down at Golden Eye's place, and he said to me, Donovan, one thing you got to do is find a nice place to live and find a way to get it to pay for itself. I thought that
Exactly.
was
I mean,
super
that
clever.
is again. So it's another icon of mine is Chris Blackwell, and it's the same sort of vision where it's like, you find the lifestyle you want to live first, and then you figure out things to do within that lifestyle that are going to help you be able to do and maintain that lifestyle.
Yeah, that's true. So the music, though, you always loved the music. You never played an instrument, but you knew you wanted to do something in music. What was the first song that inspired you to be in music?
Wow, that is a good question. First song. You know what? I think the first song that really made me kind of get that bug was Funky Town by Lips Incorporated. You know, won't you take me to down in that funky town? Like that was one of the first records I think like maybe 8 years old or something, and I bought that actual 45, and it was just such a catchy riff that I was just like, wow, I want to be able to help to give people this feeling that this record gives me, and that was my connection to wanting to be in music.
Wow. And when you got your first success, like where were you in the business? Who were you working with when you look at yourself and be like, yo, I made it?
Honestly, when I got the job at Island, I felt like, I got a company car, I got an office, I had a desk and a computer, and I'd never had that, of my own before. And I was just like, wow, this is it. I've arrived. I got an apartment, and I put this huge boombox in the back of the car. And I remember Aaliyah's album had just come out, and I just would drive around just bumping that album and feeling like this is it. This is the pinnacle. But anything that happens after this is going to be gravy.
Yeah. So for young people coming up who want to be artist managers and want to follow in your footsteps, what would you tell them is the first thing they need to do? Fresh out of school or fresh with ambition, what do they need to do right away?
Man, I always say that like I kind of never really decided to be in the music business because I always kind of was. So even when I was in high school, I was throwing parties at my house. And very quickly, those parties went from just inviting a few people over and like trying to play records myself to hiring a DJ, getting a bartender, getting somebody to hold the gate, and even just charging people like a $5, $10. And at the end of the night going, well, all right, I had a great time and I got some money. So that was kind of the Chris Blackwell lesson, which was, I wanted to have a party. I wanted to have people over. I wanted to listen to music, but I was going to figure out a way for it to pay me, So to me, it's like if you want to be in the music business, you got to start acting like it as soon as you can. And you have to me, you have to love it. If you don't love it, don't get into it because you think it's an easy way to make money or a cool way to get girls or something like that. Like that stuff may come, but it may not. So you really have to love what you're doing. Contacts are probably the most important thing in the music business. Probably like any, but definitely within music. It's who you know and who you can get a hold of, because sometimes you discover the greatest artist or have the greatest idea for a party or something like that, and you don't have the right people to plug in, to make the actual thing happen, and so you're doomed to failure. So experience, try and get as much experience as you can, even if it's working for free. I told people in the early days, I was like, listen, I don't care if it's music related, I'll do it for free. I'll do it for next to nothing because I want the experience. I want to learn how to do it. And so that's something that I'm actually starting to begin to do now. I've been reaching out to some of those same programs at UE and UTech and Edna Manley and saying, hey, I want some interns just so I can give them experience, just so I can give them understanding and knowledge of stuff that I know, that they don't know and that I didn't know back then, and I didn't have that easy, connection to the business. I have to go and search out my contacts.
Yeah, I agree with you. I took a similar path to you with the Sharon Burke thing. Sharon who used to attend a school that I used to teach, and she came and she saw me do this production, and she loved it, and then she brought me on to be site manager for Shaggy and Friends.
Oh, wicked!
And from Shaggy and Friends, I met a lot of friends.
Absolutely.
Because as site manager, everybody wanted to be in contact with me for the event. And so I definitely agree with you on the network thing. And that launched several things. That's probably why I'm talking to you now about the music business.
Absolutely. Well, the interesting thing is, imagine if you got that opportunity, right? And you walked around that backstage and you didn't take your phone out of your pocket and you didn't collect any business cards. And then now you're like, oh, actually want to work in music business. You'd be like, wow, I met all those people and I didn't get their contacts. Like, you'd kick yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, everyday life is a microcosm of that. You know, I mean, that's just a huge glaring example, but every day is like that.
Yeah, one of my best friends I met backstage at that event. She was at Red Stripes. I agree with you. So you hit artist, manager, artist jackpot. Sean Paul is one of the most successful artists and definitely the most successful artist in the last decade out of Jamaica. In terms of records, collabs, his YouTube numbers are astronomical, billions. With at least 3 records he has that hit 1 billion, and he's collaborating all over. What's that relationship like with you and Sean, and how you maintain? I notice you're a family man, but how you maintain an artist that's at that level and still be, good for yourself and your family?
Team, bro. Team is the key, right? I mean, the higher you climb is the more you realize that the blocks below you are what's holding you up, right? So if you think you can do everything, it's a matter of time before you crumble down. So, and if you try and control everything, it's a matter of time before you crumble down. So you really have to build your team out. And I mean, you don't want to build your team out too early because you want to make sure you can pay everybody. But as soon as you realize that, hey, there's somebody that does this aspect of the business better than I do, then you bring that person into your team, and it has a lot to do with loyalty, but it also has a lot to do with ability of being able to do that work. I mean, you have to be able to delegate, and everybody has to sort of feel like, they have the purvey to do their job the best they can. I also don't think it's a good workflow to be always checking on people like, hey, you did that thing the way that I told you to do it. Well, it's like, well, just do it yourself. And if you find it, members of your team are untrustworthy and you feel like you always have to be double checking their work, then that's like usually a sign that you need to get rid of that person. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I mean, I think that's like a key part of it is just team, and then of course there's just balance. I mean, Sean is also a family man now, so he has his 2 kids too. So our kids play together and hang out together, and I think that's also like, I mean, that's a blessing. Most of the time you work with somebody that don't necessarily mean that you're close to them. Me and him are brethren.
Yeah, I've managed artists that we don't hang out. Like we have 2 different.
So have I. I don't manage them anymore. But
me too. So Sean, working with Sean as an artist, what's your job? Like, if you could elevator pitch me, tell me, what do you do day to day with Sean Paul?
I don't think that's possible because it's tomes and tomes and tomes of things. If anything, if I'm going to define it, I'd have to say it's being both reactionary and proactive. You have to be able to react to things that are happening at the same time, be able to maintain a proactivity, to be able to strategize and have a plan. I think when artists first bust, a lot of the time there is no plan because you're so shocked that this is coming at you, that things are kind of just, you're being proactive, you're being reactive all the time. It's answering the phone, answering that email, doing that thing, just keeping up with what's happening is a full-time job. But at a certain point, you have to start going, all right, after this thing, what's our plan? Like, I think the most important thing in being able to have balance while doing, managing a big artist or even a big, any kind of big event, big venue, big anything, in the music business is having a team that you can rely on, a team that you trust, a team where everybody can do their job and you're confident in them doing their job. That allows you to sort of take your hand off the wheel a little bit. I don't believe in micromanaging. I believe in hiring the right people for the right jobs and letting them do it, And then I also think that because Sean now also has a family and his kids and my kids are close and they play together, that helps a lot in sort of the balance of the family life and the music life, And also my kids know what I do. I mean, it's 9 o'clock at night now and I'm doing an interview with you, and my son like, oh, you're on a Zoom. Okay, cool. Like he's up. you know, and he also has opinions about every single song, as do Sean's kids and Sean's
Yeah.
brother Jason's kids, you know. So it's definitely something that I think it's a kind of business where your family can kind of be a little bit more, maybe not involved, but certainly aware and have like a more tangible concept of, well, what is it that daddy does, you know?
Mhm. Sean has expressed thoughts about cultural appropriation and people using the music. And although he's a serial collaborator and he's multi-genre, multidisciplinary, what's your thought on cultural appropriation, especially in this streaming era where people are collaborating and doing things? And tell us the difference between cultural appropriation and respecting a genre.
I think, honestly, I'm a bit more liberal on this subject than probably most people are. But I think the main thing to me about cultural appropriation is when you don't tip your hat to the thing that you're taking your inspiration from. That's when I have a problem, right? I think that if you come out and say, you know, this is what I'm doing, and it's a country and western album I'm doing, even though I'm a reggae artist or whatever, and you talk about, you know, your inspiration in country and western and whose style really made you think that you should do this. I think the main thing about the main difference to me with cultural appropriation and just respecting a culture is when you tip your hat. I think it's important to say, this is what inspired me, this is what I'm doing. I recognize that this is a genre that may be unfamiliar to me, or for my fans to be unfamiliar with me doing this kind of style of music. I'm not just acting like, oh, so I was in the lab and I just came up with this and it's dope and it's mine. You know, I think that's cultural appropriation. When you just come out and be like, oh yeah, so now I'm singing a Bob Marley song and I'm not saying it's Bob Marley and I'm not saying it's reggae and I'm just pretending like it's mine and I invented it. And the thing about that is it can happen very easily. People would be like, oh, how is somebody gonna, you know, culturally appropriate a Bob Marley song? Well, it's actually very easy, because what happens is with every generation, kids may not know what came before, and they rely on the musicians that they like to guide them to what came before. Because that's how I discovered, you know, even ska or dub music, was when I liked a dancehall record and I was like, where did this come from? And then I checked out Lieutenant Stitchie and Supercat, and they were like, yo, let me tell you who is the real dads is Burro Banton. And I was like, oh, Burro Banton, check him out. You know what I mean? And then Burro Banton was like, oh, the real man is Lee Scratch Perry. And that's how I learned about it. So to me, it's not just, it's cultural, but it's also historical. I think it's important for artists in any genre to give respect to what inspired them and give respect to their elders and be like, yo, this is where I got my flavors from. And I think that's what makes cultural appropriation versus, you know, respecting a culture or taking some spice out of a culture and sprinkling it on something that you're creating.
Mm-hmm. With Spotify coming into Jamaica and 80 new markets that they weren't in before, how beneficial you think that is to artists in the region and to Sean Paul and you and your outfit?
Well, to me and my outfit, maybe less so, because we've been aware of it for a long time. I've been on Spotify for a while. I've been telling every artist I meet, whoever asks me about, you know, what should they do and what are they doing wrong or whatever. I always say, do you have a Spotify? Are you in charge of your Spotify page? You know, are you in charge of your Apple Music page? Now, Apple came in before, and then now Spotify is here. And I think those are both great tools, because before it was like, you know, you're trying to sell records, but you didn't know where the record store was, right? So now the record store is here. You have access to it. You can go on it. You know, we can now, our DJs here can go on there and make playlists, and we can now make powerful playlists where we're not relying on somebody to put us on Rap Caviar or whatever. That's a playlist on Spotify for those who don't know. So the other thing is it puts power in the hands of the people of Jamaica and in those 16 countries to be able to now stream and give power and give respect and give weight to the artists from their region. So we can now go and stream, you know, Intense or Skillibeng or Massacre and be like, yo, that's an artist that's important to us and that song is important. And now you can look at the numbers and see how important it is and the fact that we like it. And then what happens is we've always been, as Jamaicans, purveyors of cool. You know, the standard of cool in any city has always been a Jamaican guy, right? Or the Jamaican girl. And so now people will be able to come to our culture and be like, oh, let me see what the hot songs are in Jamaica. They'll be able to go on playlists and be able to be like, oh, those are the top 20 or 40, whatever, dancehall songs or songs in Jamaica. And oh, wow, I hear music going more reggae oriented, or I hear dancehall more going more hip hop or Afrobeat, kind of look like it taking off there, or whatever. We'll now have a thermometer that people can use and that we can use. And so if an artist wants to know how they're doing, you know what? You think you're hot in the street, you think you're hype, go on Spotify and look. See your numbers there? It's a great measuring tool.
Yeah. So Spotify basically validated the geographic location then. Because whenever I used to I have a show called World Music Views that I started because of a conversation I saw Jeremy Harding having with a guy about Spotify and several conversations around it. When I saw Leo Cohen say a couple of things, and I met with Kevin Lyles of 300 Entertainment. But I started World Music Views to bring some kind of numbers and accuracy to the region. Because before, if you want to know if a song busts in Jamaica, is boom, 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 and who reel up and so.
Literally bust. Yeah.
Yeah. But now you can see weekly who are the people with accurate numbers that have the hit song of the week and of the month or whatever.
Well,
now,
you need to start a playlist on Spotify immediately, sir. If you don't have done
there.
so already.
It's there.
All
it's
right.
called World Music Views, and Sean Paul have tuned on it. Go on it, Spotify, right. World Music Views, and we update it every week.
I'm gonna go follow it. You need to make it scroll across the bottom of this thing when you do the edit.
definitely, and we're gonna come with some more playlist stuff. But yeah, that's what I'm getting at. The taste makers are important in this era. Spotify seem to be paying podcasters more too because of cross advertising. They paid Joe Rogan $100 million. And they haven't paid any artists that. They're not even Drake getting 100 million from them. But yeah. they give Joe Rogan.
To be fair, though, I don't think any other podcasters are getting that. Joe Rogan's is a pretty unique podcast and a pretty powerful audience, and people follow him and take what he says as church. So I think he deserves it.
No, they gave a couple people nice money. They gave Barack they gave a couple people nice money. But remember, we're talking Drake. If you think Drake and Joe Rogan, Drake sell more records than Joe Rogan have downloads. But as you say, the content Joe Rogan make influence people.
Absolutely.
Right away.
Yeah.
So do you think that's an opportunity?
Well, no, sorry. Just jump back on that point. I'm not saying that Drake is worth it or bigger or whatever. What I'm saying is, you can go listen to Drake on any platform, right? Drake is not giving unique music to Spotify that he ain't giving to everybody else. It's the same music. Whereas if Joe Rogan comes over to Spotify and says, I'm gonna house my podcast here, to hear it first, you have to come here first. That's powerful.
So in essence, what I'm asking is that very thing. So Drake makes music, Joe Rogan make podcasts. Do you think artists need to also make podcasts so that they can monetize that IP and that content separate from their music?
I think that's always a good idea. The more revenue streams you have, the better. The more things you have pointing back at you, the better. However, I would say people like you and me need to do podcasts about our genres. That's who should do it. It should be me and you doing a podcast.
So you think artists should just do artist stuff?
I'm saying if artists feel like they can do it. I mean, look at Tammy Chin and Wayne Marshall. They're doing multimedia stuff and they're doing it really well. And I think they're excellent and very entertaining. And they have good numbers, great numbers, in fact, for somebody who's based in Jamaica and know that Spotify is in Jamaica. I think their numbers are going to go up even more. And if they get on there, I mean, I'm not sure if they're on there because I always watch them on YouTube. But you know what I mean? So I don't see nothing wrong with artists doing it. I'm just saying that I think it's important. Every genre should have its own, how should I say, its own champions, its own gatekeepers, right? People
tastemakers.
But not just tastemakers, people who also historians. Another person I've always really respected in the music business is Dermot Hussey, who now has I think it's a podcast called Riffin, or a radio show called Riffin, certainly. I think it's a podcast too, if I'm not mistaken. But I've always really respected his opinion about music because I know he knows the history of the music so much, and not just ours, but what led to ours. You know what I mean? Like he's done that pathology, of music. So when you play something for him, he can tell you, oh, that drum line is based from this, and this, the keyboard is this, and you know what I mean? And he can break it down and understand it. And I think that gives veracity, to a genre when you have people, musicologists like that in your genre. And I mean, if that's going to be an artist, then that's fine. I don't mind. But I'm saying we would not just need one or two. We need 10 or 20.
Yeah. And the next question, let's follow up on that same thing. It's the last question I'm asking about streaming. So you make most of the money from streams if you own the masters. Correct. Do you think a lot of artists that I work with and that I know don't own the masters? Do you think more artists need to own the masters as a matter of legacy and ownership going forward?
Yes, absolutely. I'd go further. I would say that it would be great if artists even owned part of their masters, right? You can co-own a master. It doesn't have to be yours outright. But I definitely think you should have interest in your own masters. Absolutely. Of course, it's yours. You should.
Yeah. I interview a couple people here and they say absolutely no. Walter Fire was saying everybody want to. And then I have other artists saying, hey, I don't have to own my masters. I just want to sing some songs and move forward. COVID-19. You were saying something?
Well, I'm just interested to hear. You're saying artists came on and said that artists shouldn't own masters?
Oh God, you should go back to listen to some episodes. Artists,
I think I'm gonna have to.
Artists said
maybe they don't understand what it means. I think that's part of it. The other thing is, listen, to give credit to the Walshy, if you like a Walshy who creates music and then comes and says, "Here, artist, can you voice on this song?" And the artist is like, "Well, only if I own the master," then that's unreasonable because he has created the music upon which you're now going to perform, and he's also probably going to spend the money to push the record, right? So I was going to be bigger in the answer. You should own the master if you're going to also treat the master like a product, which means market it, spend the money, put the time, not just drop it out there or expect somebody else to go run and promote your master. That's not going to happen. So that's why I say it's good maybe to co-own. Mm-hmm. So I do understand the perspective of an artist who would say, you know what, I just want to sing the song. I don't business after that what happens because I just want to sing the song and put them out there. Okay, cool. Some people don't want to be in the music business. They just want to be in music. And some people don't want to be in the music business. They just want to do business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, figure out who you are, I guess, and drive in your lane. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The last year, the music business made $48 million. I don't know how much you make this year. The Global Music Report will be coming. 48 billion, I mean. Artists got 12%. Touring was down this year. Sean Paul said him never. You there? You're chipping off.
Yeah, you stuck there for a while now. That was me. That was you.
Okay. So Sean Paul said that he didn't drop an album. He didn't know how to maneuver the whole COVID-19 thing. But he's dropping an album this year. The tour is still not going on fully yet. Little concerts here and there overseas. How brave are you? Why are you dropping an album now? What's the name of the album?
Well, Sean didn't drop an album last year, but he did drop 20 songs. So he dropped an album worth of music. You know what I'm saying? So and you can go look back. He has a post on his page where he talks about the 20 songs, and there's a little clip from each song. But I think that what you're going to find is that 2021 is going to be probably the most content-rich year that ever existed because everybody's been stuck at home, locked in a lab, locked in a studio, shooting videos. Now, being out a little bit more, doing photo shoots. You're going to see a lot of content start coming out. And I think it just becomes a point where you're like, I've done all this music. What do you mean? What am I going to do? I got to put an album out. I got to put records out. And then I think during this time, he became particularly involved and aware of like a lot of what was happening in dancehall in Jamaica, and like started sort of being around the studio a lot. And then people would come by, and as people would come by, he'd be like, "Yo, I want a record of that person or a record of that person." And then he came up with this concept of Live and Living, which is a dancehall album. It's all dancehall. Most of the songs feature, I think all the songs except one, which is Lionheart, all feature other people. And Sean's never done that. Sean's never done a collaborative dancehall album before. So it's a pretty dope concept. Drops tomorrow. Well, I guess I'm not sure when this is the airing, so let me not say that. It drops Friday, March 12th. Live and Living. It's on Sean's own label, Dirty Rock Productions. So that means it's Sean's
So
effort,
this
it's
is
Sean's
independent.
money.
This is independent.
It's independent. Island Records, which is where we're signed, has been super cool, and I have to give them a special shout out. Awesome enough to allow us to drop this record for our core audience.
So being on Island is a full circle moment for you.
It is. Yes. Chris is no longer involved, so it's a bit bittersweet, but yeah, it is definitely a full circle moment.
So how does it work? How does it work for you to drop an album and you're still on the label independently? That's a negotiation.
It's a special permission. It's a negotiation. It's something that at the very beginning when we signed to Island, we said to them, look, you have to understand that Sean's a dancehall artist, and in order to maintain his relevance in dancehall, we're gonna have to drop singles every now and then, and they won't be on Island. Now, if they do very well, you guys might want to go to that producer and say, hey, can we get that song for Sean's album? And we have done that. But that understanding was there from the beginning. So they were like, okay, cool. You just let us know when you have records coming out, and we'll make sure that, the runway is clear and that we're not trying to, we don't want to be competing with ourselves type thing. So, and it's always run very smoothly. So we were like, we're working on an international album for Island, which will come out later this year. And so they said, okay, cool, drop your dancehall album now. And, we'll give it 2-3 months, and then we can drop our other album.
So this album is the preliminary to the big international album. Suppose this one take off bigger.
I would never say it that way. It's two projects. It's 2 projects for the year. It's part 1 and part 2. I don't honestly. I think we probably worked harder on this one. On the dancehall album, we made 6 videos so far. Those are all going to be coming out. And it's been a lot of collaboration and a lot of work and a lot of effort. And it's actually been really, really refreshing and really cool to be able to work with all these artists.
Mm-hmm. Who you listening to now? Which one of these young artists you listen to now other than Sean?
Jesse Royal's on the album. I'm a big fan of Jesse Royal. Always have been. I think he's super dope. I think he's very authentic. I love Massacre. I think Massacre is also awesome. I love Bugle. Bugle is dope. I like Skilly Bang. I like Intense. I like the energy that some of these young guys are bringing and the intensity. No pun intended. But and then of course I always like the stalwarts in the business too. I love Busy Signal is one of my favorite artists in dancehall. Always has been. He's super dope, very talented, unique voice. Buju Banton's on the album. Junior Gong's on the album. So I mean, it's a powerhouse, and it's a lot of artists that I'm fans of.
This is a beautiful thing because it seems as if all of Sean's albums went platinum, right? Gold or platinum.
Yeah. So
it seems as if this album will be some of these artists' first gold plaques.
Well, definitely. I'm hoping so. And now that we have Spotify in Jamaica, we have the power to make that so. So yeah, I hope that it's supported by all the Jamaicans, not just the diaspora, but also the Jamaicans here. I hope we go on and stream the hell out of it.
And if all goes well, you see all of them on tour with Sean Paul tearing down stadiums all over the world.
Man, I just want COVID to be over so we can get back out there, man. Man, that would be amazing. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I would love to do even just one show, with all these artists and just, oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, that would be crazy. That would be really crazy.
Something just to say this is that in reggaeton or in the Latin, urban Latin world, those artists collaborate so much with each other and support each other so much that they've built a genre off of our back because they took one rhythm from dancehall in the 80s and made a whole massive genre out of it. And this has a lot to do because of how collaborative they are and how they support each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's also Sean's message too, is collaboration over confrontation. Let's work together. Let's make this genre bigger. Let's build something together.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful because if he does do this, which he is doing, and all of them ride the wave and then end up doing their own things, they are forever thankful for that. And he would really make history for doing this because usually it's the reverse. Usually it's foreign acts doing for Jamaicans to get them overseas. Now it will be a Jamaican getting guys on international markets and opening them up to new audiences. With the reggaeton collabs that Sean made, That was a deliberate effort to have him, because people always think thought he was Spanish. Was that a deliberate effort to get him into that market, which has been successful for him?
Honestly, no. Like I think what happened was we started going to New York, and the Latin market really embraced Sean. And like you said, they thought he was Latin. A lot of them thought he was Latin, and so a lot of them were like, "Yo, can you drop a verse on this? Can you drop a verse on that?" And we were like, "Yeah, we already have fans there, so it made sense." It wasn't an effort because we were already there. Like that, Sean's straight English or patois music, dancehall music, was already being loved and snapped up by Central America and Latin America already, and those crowds in New York and Miami were a big part of Sean's early success and pushing him onto MTV and BET and pushing him in those club circles and really making that happen.
Wow, that's beautiful. My last question to you is, tell me about your book. Looking Down Makes You Feel Up.
Well, so the name of the book is Look Down, and it's actually called Look Down. The subtitle is Shit You May Have Missed. I just realized I don't have a copy of it near me to show you, but
I'll put it up.
you'll flash it up.
Yeah,
so Look Down is a COVID passion project, something that I've been kind of gathering the pictures for a long time without really realizing why I was gathering those pictures. And then sort of, I think, in that exercise of clearing your phone, and I think everybody got to, and about month 3 of the lockdown, everybody was clearing their phones. I was clearing my phone, and I realized I had like 400 pictures of all these things that I had taken pictures of, things at my feet or on the ground or things below me, things looking down. And I was like, I should do something with them. I'm going to do a project. I'm going to do art gallery or art show, or maybe start an Instagram page or something. And I was like, nah, I want to put them in a book. I want to put them in a collection. And then my publisher, I now have a publisher, she said to me, well, why don't you need a narrative? You need a story. You need something to connect these pictures. It's sort of a travelogue. It's sort of a curiosities book. It's sort of, art. It's sort of artistic. It's sort of a photo book. But I'm no great photographer, so it needs a narrative. So the narrative I came up with was that my dad was turning 85 last year, and I was turning 50, and I thought it'd be really cool to do quotes inspired by my father and my grandfathers. And so those are the quotes in the book that kind of tie in and sort of tell the story of the pictures, or the pictures maybe help tell the story of the quotes. Both, I'm not sure. And that's kind of where it came from. And so it's only available on Amazon right now. You can order it on Amazon. And I'm in the process of printing some in Jamaica, so people will be able to get them, but probably not till around summertime.
I'm definitely going to buy one. I like that. You know why I like that? I have a book beside my bed called Wisdom from the Ruler of Dubai. I went to Dubai and I saw it in the airport, I believe. And it's just like that. Like he's just dropping quotes and dropping these gems. So I love those bedside books. I'm going to buy 2, for one for me and one for other people.
Yeah, man, please do.
I know it's that kind of vibe. So I love that you are not just one dimensional. You're an author, you're a road manager, and this is super inspirational. You wouldn't know how much our stories have in common, but talking to you here is just so refreshing to me to know that
Give thanks, bro. Give
somebody thanks. And I can imagine all that you went through to be where you are now. So big
thanks,
up,
my brother. Respect, bro. Big up yourself. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, man. Respect. All right.